Just days ago, the Strait of Hormuz was completely closed. 10 million barrels of oil per day vanished from global markets, the biggest energy disruption since the 1970s. A fragile 2-week ceasefire has just been announced, but ceasefire violations are already being reported. Iran still controls the waterway. Oil prices remain well above pre-war levels. This truce could collapse at any moment, and if it does, Australia is right back in the firing line. Here is what most Australians do not realize. The majority of what sits in your pantry right now crossed an ocean to get there. And in this video, I'm going to show you 12 imported foods to stockpile immediately before high oil prices shut down the supply chain for good. Australia is uniquely vulnerable, and imports account for 15 to 25% of everything we eat by value. Our food manufacturing depends on imported ingredients we cannot make here, and 80 to 90% of our fuel comes from overseas. When oil prices spike, those costs hit your grocery bill within weeks. The 12 products on this list are staples in Australian kitchens that come almost entirely from overseas, with long shelf lives that Australia simply cannot produce domestically. These are the foods that will vanish first when the ships stop coming. Number 12. Barilla pasta. The Barilla Company was founded in 1877 as a small bakery in Parma, Italy. Today, it holds 40 to 45% of the entire Italian pasta market and has become the largest pasta producer on Earth. Now here is what matters for Australians. Roughly half the spaghetti on our supermarket shelves is made in Italy. Premium brands like Barilla, De Cecco, and Devella travel over 15,000 kilometers by sea to reach us. Australians spend about $226 million on pasta every single year. It is in virtually every household pantry. And when you think about survival, food pasta is nearly perfect. It is pure carbohydrate energy. It requires no refrigeration. It needs only boiling water to prepare. Dried pasta stored properly lasts 2 to 3 years, past its best before date. Keep it in airtight containers away from moisture and heat, and it will outlast most other foods in your stockpile. In a supply crisis, a single box of pasta could easily trade for fresh vegetables or eggs. The calorie density makes it incredibly efficient for barter. Everyone knows how to cook it. Everyone wants it. Stock up now while a box still costs a couple of dollars. Number 11. Muti tin tomatoes. The Muti company in Parma, Italy takes tomato quality so seriously they award the Pomodorino d'Oro each year to farmers who produce the best tasting tomatoes. In Australian taste tests, Muti consistently takes top honours. Their organic pulpa scored 80% in the most recent choice review. Now here is the import reality. 13 of the 18 canned tomato samples tested in that review were produced in Italy. Australia is one of the main global markets requesting Italian peeled tomatoes alongside France, the United Kingdom, and the United States. We simply prefer the Italian product, and for good reason. Tinned tomatoes are the foundation of countless meals: pasta sauce, curry, and soup, stew, shakshuka. One restaurant owner in Canberra goes through 150 kilograms of canned tomatoes every single week across just 2 kitchens. In a prolonged crisis, tinned tomatoes become irreplaceable. They are nutritious with high levels of lycopene and vitamins A and C. They require no cooking if necessary. They last 2 to 5 years when stored properly. Always check cans for dents, bulges, or rust before use. Once open, transfer to glass and refrigerate. But sealed and stored correctly, these cans become a cooking essential that transforms basic survival ingredients into actual meals worth eating. Number 10. John West canned tuna. John West Foods was established in 1857 in the United Kingdom. Today, it is owned by Thai Union Group of Thailand and produces canned tuna, salmon, mackerel, and sardines sold across Australia. Now here is what most Australians do not know. Check the back of almost any can of tuna in your pantry right now. Coles brand, Woolworths brand, John West, Heinz, almost all of them say product of Thailand. Australia used to have tuna canneries. The last one in South Australia closed years ago. Today, virtually 100% of our canned tuna is imported from Thailand and Southeast Asia. This matters because canned tuna is complete protein. It contains essential omega-3 fatty acids, and critically, it is ready to eat straight from the can with zero cooking required. When fresh protein becomes unavailable, canned tuna fills that gap perfectly. Water-packed varieties have a slightly longer shelf life than oil-packed, as both last 3 to 5 years past the best before date when stored in a cool, dry place away from sunlight. Individual cans are the perfect single-trade unit, high-value protein in compact form with universal acceptance as quality food. A few cans of John West could trade for bread, vegetables, or labor when the shelves go empty. Number 9. Moccona Instant Coffee. That iconic glass jar has been sitting in Australian kitchens for decades, but the beans inside travelled a very long way to get there. In 2023, Australia imported $847 million worth of coffee, tea, and spices. 75% of that was coffee beans alone, $637 million worth. And Australia cannot grow coffee commercially at any real scale. Our climate does not support it. Every single bean comes from Brazil, Vietnam, Colombia, or Indonesia. Now here is why coffee becomes so valuable in a crisis. Caffeine is not a preference for most Australians. It is a dependency. Millions drink it every single day. When supply disappears, withdrawal hits hard. Headaches, crushing fatigue, irritability, decreased focus. In a survival situation where you need people alert and functional, coffee is not a luxury. It is a performance tool. The Red Sea shipping crisis already raised concerns about coffee supply disruptions reaching global markets. Instant coffee stored in its sealed glass jar lasts 20 years or more. The low moisture content keeps it stable almost indefinitely. One large jar of Moccona can be broken into dozens of small trades. A few spoonfuls for eggs, a cupful for potatoes. People will pay almost anything for their morning fix when the world gets hard. Number 8. Twinings Tea. Twinings was founded in London in 1706. That is over 300 years of tea heritage. Bushels has been an Australian brand since 1883. But regardless of which brand you buy, the leaves inside come from the same places. Australia imported $111 million worth of tea in 2023, 100% of it from overseas. Sri Lanka, India, Kenya, China. Australia grows virtually zero commercial tea. The climate and labour costs make it impossible. In a crisis, tea becomes more than just a comforting beverage. Black tea contains tannins, which have natural antiseptic properties. It provides a gentle caffeine boost without the intensity of coffee. And perhaps most importantly, it offers psychological comfort during high-stress situations. Humans have been drinking tea for thousands of years, for good reason. Properly stored tea bags last 2 to 3 years. Loose leaf lasts even longer in airtight containers. Keep tea away from strong odors because it absorbs them easily. Individual tea bags become perfect micro-trade units. A handful of Twinings could trade for vegetables, firewood, or help with physical labor. Hot beverages become precious when conditions get cold and morale runs low. Number 7. Imported olive oil. Spain and Italy together account for over 92% of all olive oil imported into Australia. That is an incredibly concentrated supply chain anchored entirely in Southern Europe. So in 2024, Spain alone supplied 13,000 tons of olive oil to Australia. That is 66% of total imports. Italy came second with 3.1 thousand tons. The total value of olive oil imports hit $289 million in 2024. That is a 102% increase from the previous year. Prices are already climbing fast. Australia does produce some domestic olive oil. Cobram Estate operates one of the largest olive oil mills in the Southern Hemisphere, but local production comes nowhere close to meeting demand. When ships stop arriving from the Mediterranean Australian olive oil supplies will tighten rapidly. Extra virgin olive oil lasts 18 to 24 months, unopened when stored properly. Keep it in dark glass bottles, away from light and heat. Light and heat cause oxidation and turn the oil rancid. In a crisis, olive oil becomes essential for cooking and food preservation. Small bottles make perfect individual trade units. Premium imported brands carry high perceived value even during hard times. Number 6. Master Food spices. Every single spice jar sitting in your pantry right now was imported. Australia imported $46 million worth of pepper alone in 2023. Another $22 million worth of ginger, saffron, turmeric, thyme, bay leaves, and curry spices. Virtually 100% comes from overseas. India, Indonesia, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, Madagascar. Australia simply does not have the climate or agricultural infrastructure to produce commercial spices. Now think about what happens when spices disappear. In survival food without seasoning is barely edible. Rice, beans, pasta, canned vegetables. All of it becomes a chore to eat without flavor. Spices transform bland sustenance into actual meals people want to consume. But spices offer more than just taste. Many have genuine medicinal properties. Turmeric is a powerful anti-inflammatory. Ginger settles nausea and aids digestion. Garlic has natural antibiotic properties. Ground spices last 2 to 3 years. Whole spices last 3 to 4 years. Store them in airtight containers away from heat and light. In a collapse scenario, spices become incredibly valuable trade goods. They are small and lightweight, easy to divide into portions. A tablespoon of quality spice could trade for meat or fresh vegetables. Stock your spice rack deep while shipping lanes remain open. Number 5. Cadbury chocolate. Cadbury has been in Australia since 1881 when the first factory opened in Hobart. It is one of the most recognised brands in the country. But here is the thing about chocolate. Cocoa beans cannot be grown commercially anywhere in Australia. Not a single bean. 100% of our cocoa comes from West Africa, Indonesia, and Ecuador. Ghana and Ivory Coast supply the vast majority. Processing may happen locally, but the raw ingredient travels thousands of kilometers by ship to reach us. In a supply crisis, chocolate becomes a powerful psychological commodity. It is comfort food in its purest form. Dense calories combined with sugar and caffeine provide quick energy boosts. And during prolonged stress and uncertainty, that morale boost matters more than most people realize. And children especially benefit from occasional treats during hard times. Dark chocolate lasts 2 to 3 years. Milk chocolate lasts 1 to 2 years. Store it in a cool, dark place, but not the refrigerator unless temperatures are extreme. In trade scenarios, chocolate commands premium value as a luxury item. People will trade surprisingly valuable goods for something sweet when sweets become rare. A few blocks of Cadbury stored now could be worth far more than their purchase price later. Number 4. Nutella. Nutella was created by Ferrero in Italy in 1964 and has since become one of the most popular spreads on earth. That iconic glass jar sits in millions of Australian homes. But producing Nutella requires ingredients from across the globe. Hazelnuts come from Turkey, Italy, and the United States. Cocoa comes entirely from West Africa and South America. Palm oil comes from Malaysia and Indonesia. Sugar is one of the few ingredients Australia can supply domestically. The rest travels enormous distances by container ship. What makes Nutella and similar spreads so valuable in a crisis is calorie density. A single tablespoon contains nearly 100 calories. In survival situations where food is scarce, those dense calories matter enormously. Peanut butter offers similar benefits with added protein content. Neither requires refrigeration. Both are versatile enough to eat on bread, with fruit, or straight from the jar. Unopened peanut butter lasts 1 to 2 years. Nutella lasts about 12 months unopened. Natural peanut butter without stabilizers has a shorter shelf life, so choose processed varieties for stockpiling. In trade situations, families with children will pay premium prices for these spreads. Kids who refuse bland survival food will often eat Nutella happily. Number 3. Basmati rice. Australians eat enormous quantities of rice, and much of it is imported. While Sunrice produces medium-grain rice domestically, the premium varieties come from Asia. Basmati rice is imported 100% from India and Pakistan. Jasmine rice comes entirely from Thailand and Vietnam. These are not varieties Australia can grow. The climate and soil conditions simply do not exist here. And these are the varieties many Australian communities prefer and consider essential. The Red Sea shipping crisis already raised concerns about basmati rice specifically. One senior Indian government official warned that the disruption could raise global basmati export prices by 15 to 20%. When oil prices spike, those costs compound further. Rice is arguably the perfect survival food. It provides clean, long-lasting carbohydrates. It requires only water and heat to prepare. And properly stored white rice lasts 25 to 30 years. That is not a typo. 25 to 30 years. Store it in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers inside food-grade buckets. 1 kilogram of rice can feed a family for several meals. In trade scenarios, rice has universal acceptance across virtually all cultures and cuisines. It can be divided into any quantity. Stock basmati and jasmine varieties, while shipping routes remain functional. Number 2. Fish oil and vitamin supplements. Blackmores and Swisser are proudly Australian brands, but the raw ingredients inside those bottles travel vast distances. Fish oil comes from Norway, Peru, and Chile. Vitamin C is often sourced from China. Most pharmaceutical ingredients are manufactured overseas and shipped to Australia for packaging. Our country manufactures around 10% of its medicines domestically. The rest comes from global supply chains. Economic modelling shows that in a major supply disruption, Australian food production costs would rise 3 to 5%, with those increases passed directly to consumers. But nutritional supplements face an even bigger problem. They simply stop arriving. When dietary variety becomes limited, supplements become genuine medicine. Fish oil provides omega-3 fatty acids when fresh fish is unavailable. Our vitamin C prevents scurvy, which becomes a real threat within weeks of eating limited produce. Children, pregnant women, and elderly people face the highest risks from nutritional deficiencies. Most vitamins last 2 to 3 years unopened. Fish oil should be refrigerated after opening. Check expiry dates because potency does decrease over time. In any crisis, medical supplies sit at the top of the demand list. Always. Specific vitamins could command premium trades when people cannot access proper nutrition through food alone. Number 1. Nurofen ibuprofen. This takes the top spot for one simple reason. When medicine disappears, people suffer and people die from conditions that would be trivial to treat in normal times. Nurofen is manufactured by Reckitt Benckiser and sits in medicine cabinets across Australia. But the active pharmaceutical ingredients inside come from China, India, and Europe. Australia manufactures minimal pharmaceutical raw materials. We depend almost entirely on global supply chains that stretch across oceans and through potential conflict zones. And our fuel situation makes this dependency even more dangerous. Australia currently has only 2 operating refineries capable of meeting less than 20% of national demand. Under current metrics, fuel stocks sit at roughly 29 to 36 days of supply. A prolonged disruption in global shipping would hit medicine supplies within weeks. Ibuprofen is a fever reducer, a pain reliever, an anti-inflammatory. These 3 functions cover an enormous range of medical needs: headaches, muscle pain, dental pain, fever, injury, arthritis. Without hospital access and without antibiotics, managing pain and fever becomes the front line of medicine. Ibuprofen lasts 3 to 5 years past its printed expiry date when stored properly in a cool, dry place in original packaging. Studies show it remains effective well beyond that date in most cases. In any collapse scenario, this becomes the single most valuable trade item you can own. People will trade food, goods, labor, and valuables for pain relief. A single box of Nurofen purchased today for a few dollars could equal days of labor in trade value when the pharmacies go dark. So there you have it. 12 imported foods that sit on Australian shelves right now for a few dollars each.